And we're live, and this is Evolved Conversations. You know what? I don't actually know what episode. No, maybe 17. Michael, where are you, Michael, currently? Where's home for you?
Yeah, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, which is in the states, southeast part of the states. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Is a place I haven't been to. I've rocked around a lot of the states, and it's got so many beautiful people, beautiful culture, and just a great country. Believe it or not, even though there's some politicians that we might all lean into. But hey, we're not going to get into that today. We're going to talk about change. And I met Michael through Exchange, which is an amazing community method that really brings out the best in conversations and really helps organizations bring some amazing questions to the table to create awesome outcomes and solve epic problems. So we might talk a bit about that today, but I just really wanted to have a chat about what Michael is doing and how he's feeling right now, because he is a change agent. That's the work he does. How are you feeling right now, and what changes are you feeling or kind of being highlighted right now in this little crisis that we're going through, Michael?
Yeah, well, like many people, the major change is the work environment, and so I typically travel a lot for work, doing consulting and coaching work for organizations and systems of people, and do a lot of speaking as well. And typically that's in person. And so, like all of us, I'm confined to my town, which it has a lot of benefits to it. We live in a beautiful place in the midst of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is gorgeous, and so it's been a lot of time spent here at my office, which thankfully I can still come to because it's pretty empty. And then working out of the house as well. And so definitely a huge shift in the routine. Doing a lot of walking around my neighborhood and some, there's some trails and areas in nature that my girlfriend and I have been exploring. And so it's definitely a big shift, but not at all a bad one. In some ways really challenging, but in others really nice.
Well, it's obviously springtime as well, which, hey, I'm going into winter. I was like, man, I got to pull out the fireplace and get it cranked up. And you guys are going into spring. So I'm getting a bit of FOMO looking at my social feed. Lots of American friends like bringing in spring. So exciting times to be coming out of coronavirus, hopefully in the not too distant future. But how are you feeling right now? And your clients, how are they feeling right now in this new environment that no one's experienced before?
Yeah, well, from a business standpoint, it's been major pivots, and so I mean, the majority of our contracts were put either on pause or changed in some way, and so it really forced us to figure out how are we both going to respond to the events at place with current clients, and then how might we offer new services or new value for clients and prospects. And so it's kind of forced, like many of us, to pivot to offering something new, which, it's been overwhelming in the sense of like, it's a ton of learning every day, a ton of meetings and facilitation online. And, very long days, but on the one hand, it's a lot of work and it's overwhelming. And on the other hand, it's a ton of fun because of the learning. And so, I think in the long run, from a business standpoint, myself and colleagues will come out of this on the other end in a better position because ultimately we'll have more to offer and more value to bring to clients and future clients. So,
yeah, that's interesting. And the conversations that you're having with your clients, is there a lot of fear and uncertainty right now in your clients? Because I feel like just everyone, well, there's a lot of people. There's like 3 lines of Simon Bowen I'll have on the show in a couple of days, hopefully, is like there's 3 lines. You literally go on the red line, which are people just like, nope, I'm just going to bunker down, wait for this to get out, and then I'll start to think about business. And some people have the luxury of doing that because they don't have large overheads. And then there's the amber line, which are people like, I'll try and get through this process as is. And then there's the green line where people are like, this is a great crisis, and disruption sometimes comes the best innovations. Like if we look about, there's lots of great examples when Google was born, when Uber was born. But where would you say most of your clients are right now? Are they in fear, uncertainty? What type of line are they on right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really appreciate your 3 frames that you gave there. And I'm thinking of examples of clients that are in each of those buckets. But I can tell you, Steve, one of the things that I've been thinking about given how folks and how industries and organizations are responding to this, it certainly makes me in the future want to really focus on, only clients that are in that mindset of abundance and possibility and innovation. And so while there are current clients that fit into all three categories, part of the learning for me is, wanting to continue to pursue relationships with those that are in that, creative and innovative space.
What does innovation mean to you? What's the definition of innovation to you?
Yeah, well,
it's different to everyone. Yeah. So
yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give you a couple examples of ways in which we're working in a new way with some new clients that I'm really impressed with, and it's this process utilizing the exchange method that you mentioned of what we're calling strategic convening, which is basically offering an opportunity to create a virtual environment where a client brings in various people from their business ecosystem. So partners and vendors and employees and customers and clients. And we host these events where we're allowing people to tap into their strengths, and we're actually solving problems for that business and landing on new solutions for everybody that is coming to these events, which serves multiple purposes. It allows people to connect at the human level, which arguably is the most important thing right now. It allows for real solution finding. And then thirdly, it allows these businesses to be seen as real innovators, because then they're seen as the hub in which all of these folks that are attending these events can come. And so we've got a couple contracts with clients right now that are doing series of these events. And so that's the kind of exciting innovation that I'm seeing right now.
That's amazing. And then obviously we can talk a bit about the exchange method, which both of us, it's literally helped transform not only my business life, but personal life, just by asking better questions and being able to, the power of bringing collective wisdom into an environment. Let's not talk about a room. Well, it is a room. Zoom's a room, and the physical room's the same thing. It's still a live experience. And that was a bit of an aha moment to me after 15 years of doing live events and experiences and bringing people together. I thought, wow, geez, everything is over overnight. But I'm like, you know what? Live experiences actually exploded. They're just done in a different type of room. And we're actually, as you know, getting better engagement, better input. As you said, the whole be seen, be heard, be felt is so much. I think it's easier achieved in Zoom rooms when you break out and you can kind of see everyone's faces right in front of you, and you can kind of pick up body language and what's going on. So super powerful with that whole collective wisdom. I know we're going to talk about your change cards, which you took me through on a call a couple of weeks ago, and we only had a quick snapshot of that tool, because a lot of people don't ask the right questions, do they? Or they don't actually know where to bring that question from.
So yeah, agreed.
What is the power of questions, man?
Man, I feel like we would need a whole day. I really like this quote that, questions have fate, meaning that it's where we start, in anything, in a relationship, in a business endeavor, in a strategic, thinking or strategic problem solving venture. The questions that we ask are always the starting point. And what we choose to ask influences the rest of the process. Whether, again, regardless of the dynamic of the human system, it could be a family, a business, a relationship, you choose your system. It's the same. We always start with questions. And so, the encouragement is always to find a question that's inspiring and life-giving and, really interesting and curious, and gets to the depths of what's possible and of our lived human experience. And so, that's a big ask, I guess, to frame every question that way, but that's why it's such a complicated topic, right?
Like I find sometimes when I call myself 1.0 or 2.0, like this whole evolution of self-discovery and understanding what your strengths and what your passions are and all that sort of stuff, inner work that I only did later in life. And fortunate that I have lent into that, is that I'll catch myself and is like, is this question best served? Because you'll start asking questions to yourself before you ask them to others. It's like, is this actually serving a greater purpose, or is it actually just a one-pointed question? Are you okay? Yes, no. And like the whole being able to bring breadth and width to questions is just powerful. And like, even like you can use examples everywhere, but like questions to my kids, like the exchange method, front row dads, is just like blowing up on how I can really communicate and connect with my children, relationships. So yeah, I can't wait to lean into this bit of exercise and share with the team, and then we can kind of wrap up off the back end of that, and ask if any questions come through, we can answer them. How does that sound, man?
Yeah, that sounds great. I want to add one other thing as you're talking. It's making me think about another point that I think is critical right now, which is in times of crisis, questions become even more important. And there's some biology and science to this. When we're in a time of uncertainty, chaos, or crisis, the biological response is protectiveness, right? And so there's inherent fear that exists. And so the leaning naturally might be to talk about the fear and the uncertainty and the pain and all of that, right? But it comes from a place of protectiveness. So it's a natural instinct. And at the same time, if that's what we focus on, it doesn't generate the possibility as much. It doesn't generate the solution as much for us. And so the invitation is to maybe disconnect from what feels most natural and instead be focused on what's possible, what's more interesting, what's innovative and creative. And so I wanted to add that piece since we're in this time of uncertainty and chaos.
Yeah, we've got to look at the high points through crisis. We spiral out of control. So let's see if I can share the screen here. There we go. And we'll rock into some change cards. Obviously, these were just in the physical format, so I was going to order a pack to come down, but I believe that you've taken it into the virtual world, so we can get access to this, which is great. So
cool. So should I go ahead and bring it up?
Yeah, man. Let's go.
All right. Can you see this?
I can indeed.
All right. So, and as I'm teeing this up, just as folks that are watching, the purpose of this question deck is to, again, give people tools that allow themselves and any group that they're in virtually to ask really interesting questions and to create more psychological safety and more interesting conversations so that, we can really expand on what's possible and what we might create down the road. And so there's a little video in this tool that explains it, but since we're here, I'm going to skip over that. This is a little bit about the deck. And then here's an activity, and Steve, you and I will walk through this for folks right now. And then I think at the end, we're going to give this tool away to anybody that wants it. And again, you can bring this tool immediately to any group you're leading, whether it's a team at your organization. If you're any kind of, service provider, coach, consultant, you can bring this to your clients. You can even bring it to the family dinner table. And so here we go. So 3 easy steps to create community purpose and engagement in any virtual meeting. So here we go, Steve. So why don't we start? There's 7 categories here, and these are categories of our lived experience, you could say. And there's a lot more detail behind them, but we'll skip the detail. If people are interested, they can follow up. There's a video at the end of this deck that explains a little bit more, and feel free to follow up there. So when you look at these icons, Steve, which one jumps to your attention first?
I think I'd say nourishment.
Okay, great. And so why don't we choose? So you're going to choose a number. I'm going to step 2 here. Go to the slide that corresponds to that number. So if you choose nourishment, you're going to pick a slide between 21 and 24. So just pick
21,
a number.
If I could go back to 21 today, that would be great.
21, you got it. All right. So I'm just going to the menu here. I'm clicking on 21. And then what kind of activity makes you feel the most alive? And if we want, maybe we could go back to you and I, and we can chat a little bit about that question.
Yeah, man, totally. What kind of activity makes you feel the most alive? Definitely an example was last night after having my Evolve call with Curtis. He runs Innovate Fitness up in Vancouver. Is going for a run, and that is, I find meditation right now is hard to get in flow for me. And real struggle. So my way of meditating right now is getting up for a run and kind of pushing the body and chucking on some tunes. That really does take me away from the busyness and the noise and just focus on one activity.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. I've been finding But I've actually been doing more exercise, it seems like right now. And I don't know if it's a combination of being, being a little bit more isolated and just having some more time, or if it's that I know I need it so much because there's so much digital focus right now.
Oh, there's
And
so much noise. There's so much, yeah, the whole word pivot. I actually had a bit of a rant last night on Facebook Live about the pivot. Is just like literally it's in your face. It's like pivot or die, pivot or die. And it's like,
yeah, right.
you know what? Sometimes I'm just going to be and not do. And that's been really hard for me right now. It's just like, just be and just sit with some thoughts versus trying to pivot so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because as Curtis said, he did a very quick pivot from 14 businesses to brick and mortar gyms to going virtual, and he did an amazing job. But he got in front of the pack. I'm like, it's still a marathon. And as he said, it's still a marathon. Like you got to. So if you don't want to burn out at the start, so I'm kind of taking that approach of this crisis. So yeah, man, I love the deck. Just being able to go, what jumps out at me, and then being able to dive into that question, and then what's kind of the iteration from there in regards to.
Yeah,
those questions.
Sure. So Steve and I just gave a little bit of an example of one question, but if you were to utilize this tool in the context of a group, each person could do exactly what Steve and I just did, which was which image do you feel most drawn to, choosing a number, and then going to that question. And then each person could go around in your virtual meeting and answer that question. To follow up and give it some context of what we're dealing with right now, you might ask the follow-up question to say, how does that question relate to managing this time of uncertainty? Or how does that question relate to dealing with, the changes at hand? And so there's a number of ways you could do it. You could have each person in the group answer a separate question. You could have everybody in the group answer one question, or you could choose a handful. And so it's really a choose your own adventure deck. So you tell me from here, we could do another question if you like, or if there's questions from folks on the live, we could field those.
Let's see if I got any questions. Does anyone have any questions that pop into any of the platforms and it comes through to live stream, and I can pop those questions through to Michael. Otherwise, we can do another question. But maybe on the work that you do at Arc Integrated, like what's some of the biggest breakthroughs that you've experienced over the last 2 or 3 weeks through this crisis? What have been some of those high points for you and your clients?
Yeah, well, I really believe that this high point of what I talked about earlier, the strategic convening events, I'm really excited about those because I see the value that the attendees are experiencing. I see the value for the companies and organizations that are hosting the events. And I enjoy doing them because they're super interesting and valuable, but I also think it's going to be another service that we'll continue to offer as a consultancy, both virtually and in person. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this virtual version of the card deck. I've used the physical cards in the context of, small groups, like a team size, to like hundreds of people in one room and in person. And, I would have not created this virtual version if it wasn't for the kind of forced nature of things. And so, again, it's another example of like the opportunity that's created when there's a major change involved. And so yeah, a lot of things to be excited about.
So the strategic convening, let's maybe just dive a little bit deeper into strategic convening and how that can be used in a tool of crisis and a tool in change, and a tool in like evolution of what people, the word evolve, like, excuse the pun, but it just continues to come up as right now people have the chance to evolve out of this crisis, or they have a potential to dissolve as hard as it is people are dissolving, companies are dissolving left, right, and center. And a great example was given a few calls ago is that, Blockbuster didn't go out of business because Netflix came along. They disappeared because they didn't innovate. Same thing with taxis. Taxis are not going out of business because Uber came along. They just didn't innovate. So I'd love to kind of dive a bit deeper into this whole strategic convening and how people can bring it to life. Obviously, they can engage in your services, but maybe just some quick take homes on why it is important to have these strategic convenience and bringing in all stakeholders. I think a lot of companies, and especially Sarah's in corporate, stakeholders are isolated to parts of the company, and they don't bring it. Like at exchange, it's very about collective wisdom. You know what? Sometimes get your competitors in the room, and I think maybe through this crisis, about the whole togetherness and working together as a collective is far more powerful, and getting as much input into the system as we can, so you can go through the 4D process, which is discovery, dream, design, deploy, or destiny, which is the exchange framework, which we'll have JB on in a couple of days' time to talk about that. But yeah, what are some key take homes and benefits on doing this convenience stuff, and where do people start?
Yeah. So I think, there's a ton of benefits as far as where to start. I whether it's a community or an organization, just simply starting to ask the question of what, to your consumer or customer or client, what is it that you need right now? And I think that can be the beginning of innovation, because what we're seeing is that as that question is delivered at volume, people are coming forward with maybe different needs than what the entity or the organization was delivering previously. And so that's the first opportunity. And then secondly, the other thing I would encourage is who in the business ecosystem might be able to learn from each other. And so I'll give you an example, a real example. One project we're working right now is it's a magazine, and they have a national presence in the U.S. and they have regional publishers of the magazine around the U.S. Mm-hmm. So each publisher is holding these meetings, and they're bringing really everybody that they can. They're bringing colleagues, they're bringing their clients for the magazine, they're bringing advertisers, they're bringing other folks that have industry knowledge. And what's happening is that they're landing on really interesting solutions about the value that they might bring as a publisher of a magazine. And they're also being seen as this industry leader. So people, it's an enormous reputation builder and branding positioning builder. And so that's an example. I just encourage people to be asking, what does my client or customer need? And it might not be what I'm currently offering. And then who in the ecosystem might I invite into a conversation that would allow for people to learn from each other? I think that's the huge opportunity. And I'll say one other thing is that, we're holding all these meetings, and we always ask, like, what's the most valuable piece of this? And what's interesting is that a lot of the value is the product that's produced on the end. In this case, the product is solutions to problems. But you know what people highlight, Steve, is they really highlight the human connection piece. They're highlighting the element of, wow, it's so powerful to be able to just share my story and hear that I'm not alone in this, and be able to connect with people because I've been so isolated, and and for people to just connect with me emotionally and psychologically right now. And so it sounds simple, and yet it's one of the hugest benefits that people are reporting back to us as a value add, and they want it over and over again, which is why these things are turning into series, which is fascinating. So,
well, the power of human connection, and it has been proven that Zoom human connection, these types of conversations can still fire off the right parts of the brain to I think people may be feeling the most connected they have in a long time, because they're reaching out to people that they probably haven't spoken to, and as you said, bringing these gatherings together like Zoom is the Zoom conspiracy. No, I'm not buying into it at all. Like, come on. But they are a great platform, and thank goodness for Zoom right now. If we didn't have Zoom or other platforms like StreamYard and Facebook, like, we're just so fortunate to have technology through these times, because when the Spanish flu back in the day, jeepers, they didn't have this. So we're very fortunate and grateful to have technology right now. Just to wrap up, what are you most excited about the new normal, the evolution of the new normal?
Yeah, well, it's curious to call it that. I wonder how the new normal will evolve, in the coming months ahead. Will we? I can say I hope that what the result is, what the new normal is a combination of recognizing the value of connecting virtually and recognizing what's possible in the virtual world, and not losing sight of the importance of human connection physically, and human connection in the same room, in the same space. And so my excitement is, wouldn't it be great if at the other side of this thing, we're able to see the value of both of those paradigms, because they can be enormously complementary to each other.
Yeah, I just hope we don't lose that, and people just think everything can be done virtually, and that we're going to lose that that live experience, that energy that you can only get in the physical person, and being able to stand face to face and give another person a hug or a high five, or run down the beach, or be part of that live experience. You just can't beat that energy and the live music that we experience with like Brother James, and can't wait till that happens. So maybe we'll value that at a much deeper level than we ever have before. And the travel and the wonder, which wonder is built in my DNA, and us Kiwis not being able to fly, literally the bird that can't fly, literally we're grounded right now. I can't wait to be able to get back up into your neck of the woods and experience. But you're going to send me the link or a registration link so people can get these cards, so people can try this at home in their organization, start playing with bringing people together and asking these questions. And I'm just really value your time, your resources, your friendship. And Michael was one of the first people to kind of reach out to me in the crisis, and we jumped on a call and just started to brainstorm stuff up. So the power of human connection and relationships and experiences are the new currency. So let's dive in and look after them. So appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, so great to connect, Steve. And I totally agree. I don't think we'll ever, the power of human connection will never diminish. And so I think that we'll be back into the in-person event space in no time. So I look forward to connecting with you in person down the road soon here.
Can't wait.
Yeah.